Hello, everyone. I'll give you just a second for people to join, and we will get started. If you are watching, let me know where you're watching from. If you're having a good day. We're supposed to do this last week, but I was sick with bronchitis and couldn't hardly get through a sentence without coughing or sounding normal. So we are doing it this week, and this is how to truly calculate your debt to income ratio. So you are better prepared and armored against banks that tell you no, that may or may not calculate your income correctly. They may, one, not know how to calculate it correctly, or two, they may have rules on top of what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac allow. And they can do that because they're banks, right? So they can make up their own rules versus true loan originators with a mortgage brokerage or something like that should be able to know how to calculate your income accurately. The real shocker is there's a lot of underwriters out there that don't know how to calculate income accurately, go off of systems that they think are correct. And so it's just really good to know all around how to calculate your debt to income ratio and kind of have an idea of how we do it on our end. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay. So your debt to income and how it should be calculated. If you are trying to get one of these types of loans, then you will need to know what your debt to income ratio is. That's what DTI stands for, and how it should be calculated. Conventional primary residence, conventional investment property loan, conventional 10% down vacation home loan. Each of these go off of your personal monthly debt and personal monthly income first and foremost. I'm going to put this presentation up on my other screen so I can see it better. In the next few slides, we are going to go over how your income should be calculated based on what your personal situation is. So we're going to go through all those different types, whether you're W-2, self-employed, things like that. So W-2 income, it usually requires a 2-year job history, but college can actually count as a 2-year job history. It doesn't have to be the same job where you're at the same company, for example. You just have to have a 2-year history. When I say college can count, this is for any of you that are newly graduated. For the past 2 years, if you show that you were in college, then you can use that as your 2-year job history, and you'll be good to go. Salaried income for W-2. So if you all make a yearly guaranteed amount, salaried income, we just look at that, your current salary, and show that as your monthly income. So your yearly salary divided by 12 months in a year is your monthly income. Guaranteed bonus, if you get a guaranteed bonus of $30,000 a year, and we show that on a pay stub, or your employer can confirm that, we literally treat that as salary and divide it by 12. So that's the easy W-2 income. Now, if you make hourly income, bonus income, commission income that's not guaranteed, and it's, it's structured differently. It could be, $10,000 one month. It could be $1,000 the next month. Generally, underwriters want a 2-year history and will average out your income with the most conservative approach. So I'm going to tell you the approaches that you can look at when you're gauging your own. And this all is going to lead up to our debt to income ratio calculator that you can have for free, that you'll get at the end of this. So you can kind of keep up with your monthly debts and monthly incomes. And if you're starting to try to get your feet wet in your first short-term rental or anything like that, you'll be able to be prepared. So we look at, for any of these that are not guaranteed, so bonus, hourly, wages, commission, we look at the average of the last 2 years plus year-to-date income. So, for example, 2023, 2024, and currently what you have made so far this year. Sometimes, though, so I talked to you about most conservative approach. That's what is going to be the safest bet. That's what most underwriters will do unless they're in a good mood. They might give you the benefit of the doubt, but they're going to use the most conservative approach. What I mean by that is sometimes the most conservative approach is only averaging what you have made last year and so far this year, as opposed to that 2-year average plus this year. So whichever is showing the least amount, essentially. Let's say it's commission income. So this is the example I'm going to give you. In 2023, you made $73,000 in commission-only income. 2024, you made $82,000. And then year to date, let's say through April, which is 4 months, you made January, February, March, April, yes, 4 months. You made $32,000 so far through April. So we're going to look at both of these calculations to see which is the most conservative. $73,000 in 2023 for 12 months, $82,000 for 12 months in 2024. And year to date through April, you've made $32,000 for 4 months. It's $187,000. You add all those months together, what do you get? 28 months. So 187 divided by 28 months is an average of $6,678.57 in commission income per month. So that would be your income. But just to make sure that we are calculating the most conservative approach, as underwriters will do, this is what makes a good loan originator become great. They're going to do this ahead of time to make sure there are no hiccups. So let's just look at 2024 and year to date. It's going to be $82,000 again for 12 months, $32,000 for 4 months, which is $114,000. Now we just divide it by 16 months because we're only using 12 months from last year, 4 months from this year. That's $7,125 a month, which is more than what our first calculation was. So which one are we going to go with? We're going to go with that $6,678.57 for your monthly income. This is a lot of information on this one. I hesitated to do this for you guys because it is a lot of information, but guess what? It's live. You can rewatch it with the replay links and go through it so you are more educated and prepared for your next deal where banks cannot tell you no if you know what your debt to income ratio is. So, of course, in comparing these, the most conservative is at $6,678. So that's what you would use for your monthly qualifying income if you were commission only. And these were your numbers. Now, self-employed income. So that's Schedule C, which is 1099. So you may not recognize what Schedule C is, but if you get a 1099, if you're a realtor, anything like that, you're probably going to get a 1099, which will go on a Schedule C. Or you have a separate business return, which is an S Corp or a partnership or a C Corp, anything like that. So it's going to be, if you have any of the last three, you'll have a separate tax return than your personal tax return. So you'll have 2 tax returns if you have one business that is one of those last 3. Schedule C is actually on your personal return still, so you'll still only have 1 return if you just have a Schedule C. The general rule of thumb is you must be self-employed at least 2 years to be able to use the income to qualify. This is why I stress to you all not to put your short-term rental income on a Schedule C and put it on a Schedule E instead, because again, we'll go through this in this slide. Schedule E only requires 1 year as opposed to 2. Here is the general rule of thumb. If you have been in business less than 5 years, so your business start date, you will generally take the average of the last 2 years. So the lender or myself will be like, hey, can you upload your 2 years most recent tax returns to your loan portal? If you have been in business 5 or more years, you will generally only need the last year's tax return as opposed to the last 2 years' tax returns. This income can be pretty complicated to calculate, so you really want to make sure you work with a lender who knows how to calculate these business returns and knows what it is and what is not needed. So for example, if a lender is asking you for 2 years tax returns for underwriting and your business has been in place for 5 or more years, ask them why it needs to be 2 years instead of just 1. If they don't know or say it's an internal rule, you know you aren't dealing with someone that directly uses Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines. This is a red flag. It can be a red flag. Because let's say you've been in business 5 years, you had a really slow year in 2023, it was awful. 2024, you're back in action. You've got good numbers. If they average those 2 years when they really shouldn't, that could make or break you for this deal. That could ruin your pre-qualification. So it's very imperative and important that you know these simple general guidelines when it comes to calculating self-employed income. Rental income, Schedule E. So remember I said, I've gone over how to calculate rental income in another video, and you can find that on our YouTube channel. Simply go to your YouTube channel, type in financing.short-term.rentals, and search for rental income and how it needs to be calculated. You can also download our rental income calculator by going to go.mortgage.shop/rental income calculator. Hint. Remember I said Schedule C, you need 2 years. If less than in business 5 or less than 5 years. You only need 1 tax return for Schedule E rental income and not 2 years of returns. If somebody's asking for 2 years of returns for just your Schedule E rental income, they don't know what they're doing, or their company has rules on top of Fannie Mae or in what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac allow. My admin just put in the rental income calculator if you need that as well in the chats, the links in the chat. So a couple of helpful hints for rental income on your Schedule E. Once you watch that video of mine and then you feel like you're comfortable with this one, you can use rental income off of your tax return on the Schedule E, even if it doesn't show a 12-month history. Work with someone who specializes in this, and they will be able to help you calculate this accurately when the time is right. If it is a long-term rental, so some of you have long-term rentals as well, and you have not had it long enough to file on your tax return yet, completely fine. You can simply use the monthly rental income to offset your monthly mortgage payment. How your debt-to-income ratio is calculated. So we went through all the major income types. I'm not going to bore you with things like oil royalties and farm income on a Schedule F. It's all kind of relatively the same for self-employed income. But how your debt-to-income ratio is calculated. We take your monthly debts and divide by your monthly income, including your rental income that we add in from your Schedule E. Your monthly debt is what pulls in on your credit report plus any of the following. So it doesn't have to show in your credit report, so that's why I want to make you known of these things. Mortgages that don't report to your credit report, but are on a residential property and in your personal name. Those still count against you. Whether or not it reports or not, we know about it, unfortunately. So just know that those monthly mortgage payments will count against you unless you have it, your LLC on that loan as well, and the LLC has been paying that mortgage on time for 12 months in a row. Taxes and insurance and HOA fees on properties you personally are on the mortgage of, if these are not included, escrowed into your monthly mortgage payment. So if you pay your taxes and insurance separately, right, or you have an HOA fee, that's going to count additionally extra against you plus your mortgage payment because it's not included in your mortgage payment. So always know that. A lot of lenders will overlook that, say you qualify, and then realize they're not escrowed or you have a large HOA fee. We always ask that up front. So you also want to be prepared on your end with that. If you are on title of properties, but not on the mortgage, these will not count against your debt except for your primary residence. Monthly taxes, insurance, and HOA fees will count against your monthly debt to income ratio for a primary residence. So let's say you fill out an application with me, you put that you own the property, your primary residence, but your name's not on the mortgage, that's fine. The mortgage doesn't count against you, but we do have to count those yearly, which convert to monthly, taxes, insurance, and HOA fees against you only on your primary. The only time we would take that into consideration on any other properties you own and you're just on the title of is if you wanted to use the rental income on those properties to help qualify you. Then we would put that in our calculation. Child support alimony. That has to count against you, unfortunately. So you do put that in as a debt. Student loans. All of y'all, I'm going to talk about it because these have become due now. They're about to be with you guys. They're going to be out of forbearance or deferment. They count against you even if they are in forbearance or deferment. So we usually take the rule of thumb is 1% of your balance for your monthly payment. Or I ask you to get with your student loan servicer and say, hey, what would my payment be once I start making it? Can you send me that letter? And if it's less than 1%, then we can use that amount, okay? Authorized user credit card. So if you guys have kids, they are, on it, or you're on it on their credit card to kind of monitor them, or you're an authorized user on your spouse's credit cards and they're not on the loan, those do count against you unless you can show that they have made payments on time for 12 months in a row in an account separate from your name being on that checking account. It's the same thing for any loan, like an auto loan you co-sign for your kid, student loans you co-sign for, anything like that, it will count against your debt unless you can show that they have personally been the ones to pay it for the last 12 months. So it's excluded from your debt, okay? For HELOC payments, let me make sure I can see. For HELOC payments, you only have to count the minimum monthly payment against yourself on this. So if you don't have a balance on there, no debt is going to be counted against you. I have a lot of you guys ask me that question. If there's no balance on your HELOC, there's no monthly payment. If there's a balance, we just do the minimum monthly payment of whatever that is, kind of like a credit card. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll answer them at the end, as always. And yeah, let's go forward. Loan types and DTI. Okay, so we've been through the major income types that you can have. What counts against your personal monthly debt? What doesn't? So now let's look at the loan types I mentioned. Primary residences. This goes solely off of your debt to income ratio unless it is a 2 to 4 unit property, like a duplex, or it has an accessory dwelling unit. So some of you out west have a lot of these ADUs, what they're known as. We can then use proposed rental income to help offset your mortgage payment. If you've seen one of my latest reviews from my client, Pedro, his was a primary residence with an accessory dwelling unit, and we were able to use proposed rental income to help him with his debt to income ratio as well, qualify for that property. So a vacation home loan goes solely off of your debt to income ratio. No rental income can be used on a vacation home loan. You cannot do a 2 to 4 unit property on a vacation home loan. Investment property loan, it goes off of your debt to income ratio, but also allows you to use proposed rental income to offset the proposed monthly mortgage payment you will have. If you have owned a rental property within the last 3 years, so this is a good note to know, and not many lenders will tell you this because they may not know. If you have owned a rental property within the last 3 years for at least 12 months, you can use the rental income that comes back to offset the monthly mortgage payment plus any additional leftover income towards your income as well. So let's give you 2 examples. Let's say you're a first-time investor. We're using proposed rental income to help offset that mortgage. So proposed mortgage payment is $3,000. The proposed rental income comes back at $4,000. Well, you're only a first-time investor. You don't have a previous 12-month history within the last 3 years. You are only going to be able to use $3,000 of that to offset the monthly mortgage payment. Second scenario, if you've already owned a property within the last 3 years, you don't have to own it still. Just one that you've owned in the last 3 years where you had 12 months of rental experience. You can now use, so if it's $4,000, you're offsetting that monthly mortgage payment of $3,000. And now you can add an additional $1,000 per month to your monthly qualifying income. So that's a huge deal. $1,000 can make or break your deal. So keep that in mind as well. That's a little intricacy rule that you as a consumer would not know, that novice lenders will not know and will not do. And so you really want to know that, or have somebody. It's imperative to have somebody that knows this, that's in your corner, okay? So keep that in mind. How to calculate your debt to income ratio. So I've told you all the things that count against it. How do you calculate it? Now that you know the basic rules, you can use my debt to income ratio calculator that I've created to give you a baseline of what you may qualify for. This is a tool to help you keep track of your numbers, just like you would a pro forma on one of your short-term rentals, okay? You kind of always want to play with this to keep up to date with what you could or could not qualify for. You always want to get accurate calculations, though, from your trusted lender. This is just to help you stand up against the banks that want to tell you no, or any other lender that doesn't know how to calculate any of the incomes that I went over, because it can get intricate and many will not know how to calculate it. I could calculate your debt to income ratio and tell you exactly what it is. You could go to a bank and they're going to tell you something completely different. It's because you have to know these rules backwards and forwards to be able to truly qualify the borrower. So link to get to the debt to income ratio calculator is go.mortgage.shop/DTI-calculator. My admin Ray will put that in the chat for you. And this one is kind of like one you want to work every month, every couple months or so, okay? So he's put that in the chat for you, and you can download it there. And I believe a video comes with it of me showing you how to use these calculators. So just keep that in mind too. It's not like you're going blind in it. And then the last slide, of course, if you want to get pre-qualified to purchase a property within the next 60 days, we do all this for you. So we do everything for you, calculate it accurately. We can share the results with you, show you exactly, hey, we only used 1 year on this tax return because you've been in business 5 years. We were actually able to use this rental income on the Schedule E, etc. Reach out if you are ready to be pre-qualified. This is not for if you're ready next year, because it's not even, it's going to be a waste of time for you. It's going to be a waste of time for us because your numbers will totally change next year. So that's why I say within 60 days. So Brenna at mortgageshop.co, not .com. Instagram, financing.short.term.rentals. That is me. You can ask me anything and everything you want on there. I also post little snippets of fun, interesting finance guidelines that will help you to continue to learn. If you're not a part of our Financing Short-Term Rentals Facebook group, you need to be. I post all updates in there. People ask questions in there. We answer them. So you can go to our groups, financingshorttermrentals.com. You'll see in the top right corner that picture. That's what I created, Financing Short-Term Rentals. That's our Facebook group picture. Finally, YouTube, you want to replay this over and over again, probably to kind of understand it. There's so many other incremental videos that I've shown and shared with you that if you put all of them together, you'll start to know all of the ins and outs of financing and what you can and cannot qualify for. And you literally just look us up on YouTube at financing.short.term.rentals. You can give us a call at 800-816-7982 as well if you just have burning questions and you need your answers or your questions answered ASAP. So I'll leave that up for a second while I go through some of these questions. Can one get financing for a new purchase when the only income is from one short-term rental property that has a positive cash flow? It depends. So technically, yes. If it's positive enough to cover your monthly debts, monthly mortgage payments on the properties you already own, and then we can use possibly proposed rental income to help offset the monthly mortgage payment on the property you're purchasing, possibly. But if it's only one property that's producing really well, it's going to be hard for you to, unless that's like a huge property that's producing a lot of money per year. And we can show that in our rental income calculation. And again, in the comments is that rental income calculator if you want to use that for yourself as well. Remove that for now. Now, let's see. Great info. Thanks. Be in touch soon. Oh, thank you. I think that's Chris. How long does our pre-qualification last? Great question. Different companies might allow you to do 120 days, but the general rule of thumb is normally 90 days. So 90 days from the time that we pull your credit. Now, I will let you know, most of the time when I do or my team does a pre-qualification, we initially do a soft credit pull. And that's so, let's say you don't find a property within the next 30 days. We're not continuing to do a hard credit pull once it's expired, because what happens is after 30 days out of that time frame, if you do another hard pull, your credit will be dinged again. You are actually allowed to shop lenders within a 30-day time frame. After that, it will hit your credit again. So we just do a soft credit pull up front until you go under contract, because that one doesn't affect your credit. And then once you do go under contract and we go to submit your loan, that's when we do that hard pull for you. So soft pulls as well. Pre-qualification is good for 90 days. Hard pull, 90 days as well, is usually what you will see. Roughly how much time does the pre-qual process take? It should not take longer than 24 to 48 hours. I will say I can get one out same day if it's simple, whether it's DSCR or whether it's W-2 income, normal. If you've got like 10 businesses and they all file separate tax returns, you're going to have to give us a little bit, because we don't send you a pre-qualification letter based off of what you put in the application. We actually do the long income calculation for you to make sure everything looks good for self-employed income and things like that. Foreign national, again, this is just going to be DSCR. We don't look at debt to income ratio. If you're a non-permanent resident alien, then we would, but you're just probably looking at a DSCR loan at this point. Oh, thank you, Josh. You guys were fast for us. See, yes, we try to be efficient with our time and your time. Sometimes same day, sometimes we have to respond. You'll see me respond to you like, hey, I had a question on this. You say your mortgage payment is $3,000. It's coming back at $8,000. Can you let me know what this one's for? So I'll go back and forth with you a little bit on some questions before I'm able to actually get a true sense of what you qualify for. But that's why I say 24 to 48 hours. Any other questions at this time? Leave it open for just a few more minutes. This was a lot of information in a little bit of time, but I try to educate you guys as much as possible. And so you can understand the intricacies of how we calculate income, how it should be calculated, because not everybody calculates it the same, and they should, even though they don't. And this is going to help you with banks be better prepared. So yeah, keep that in mind. If no other questions, I'm going to let you guys go. Feel free to reach out to me afterwards if you have questions that come up. Brenna at mortgageshop.co, not .com. You can message me as well on Facebook, Instagram. Here's my Instagram. And if you're trying to get pre-qualified right away, you can schedule a time at Mortgage Shop MLO. Call 800-816-7982. Loan originators are standing by, like those infomercials. Or again, reach out to me and I'll be able to help you as well. So thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you guys soon.